to Eugene's point, somebody in that building, it's like telling an old striker, it's like telling a pitcher, it's like telling a quarterback, bro, you've done a good job.
Taking the keys from grandpa.
Right.
We've all done it. We've all had to do it.
Exactly. It's like, grandpa, we love you. No grill this year, right? Like, you do all the work. And had somebody come to him, had they had a meeting after 2022 midterms and said, what you need to do is during your State of the Union of 2023, say, remember when I told you I was just going to be a transitional president? I meant it. And had he said at the State of the Union in 2023, and there's two ways to say this stuff. Obviously, we've all thought about this. You say, hey, I'm transitional, I'm not running again. And then you say, and people would have been mad, but it's understandable, I am also not endorsing anyone, because while I chose Harris as my vice president, I think it should be up to the American people or the Democratic primary voters to make their decision going forward, and then just have a freaking primary. I think had he done that in 2023, we might, I don't know.
Well, it wouldn't have been
we might have had a different result in 2024.
Yeah, I agree with Jason on this. Again, a student of Jason Johnson. I think he's absolutely right.
Baltimore real.
And I will also add, because I think this is important politically moving forward, which is, again, I want to be sort of forward thinking about consequences, but not talking about elections, because I think it's insane to talk about 2026 or 2028 at this point.
Yeah.
But we have to, of course, recognize the past in order to understand the future. He never wanted to pick her, right? So let's be clear about that. He never wanted to pick her. He made a decision based on the counsel of somebody that we all know. And that always had an impact. So when you see people who are partnered in unnatural ways, there tends to be tension. The ability of those in the White House who did not like Vice President Harris to do what they did stemmed from the fact that he was never overly enthusiastic about the selection to begin with. And he had a bunch of different
after that busing thing, after the busing thing, but to his core about that. He told me.
But quite frankly, and I think, again, this is important moving forward as we look at people like Tim Walz and we look at people like Wes Moore, because what Democrats are hopefully going to learn how to do as a party in opposition under an increasingly authoritarian regime is stop all this BS triangulating and operate out of your gut. Because what they did, and what Joe Biden did at the time, is he sort of leaked this idea that he was going to pick a black woman as his vice president, which limited his options to about 4 people at the time. I mean, like, which was just bonkers for him to do, because you basically at that point, all you had was Susan Rice, Val Demings, Stacey Abrams had she won the governorship, right? And Kamala Harris. That's not a particularly wide swath of people to be choosing from. So he already locked himself in.
Karen Bass, they were in the
Keisha Lance Bottoms was never an option.
Yes, she was. Yes, she was, because he called her.
I lived in Atlanta. The stories that would have come out about how that mayoral
told her that night that he didn't pick her.
Anyway, well, what I will say is the Democrats moving forward, and I say this as someone who is a Maryland resident and has seen what happened recently with a certain bill about reparations, that's the kind of thinking, right, that we saw Joe Biden engaging in when he picked Kamala Harris. I'm trying to triangulate in all of these ways based on ethnicity as opposed to ideology and as opposed to what people actually want to see. If you want to be a party in opposition that is functional, you have to operate on your gut. The American people have no more faith in policy. The American people are diversified and bifurcated in ways that seem to cross race, gender, sexuality. There are people out, and forgive me, but this is an important rant moving forward. There are people out there who were COVID skeptics who will fight you on gay marriage, right? Who will also say, I should have universal basic income. You can't appeal to those people the way that you used to 10, 12 years ago.
That's true.
You've got to be committed to, like, this is my vision for America, and I'm going to sell it to you. And it doesn't necessarily matter, and I'm the last person to say this, but it doesn't necessarily matter as much what color is the person making that argument, but it's their ability to prove that it'll work for people.
No,
and
the
that's
color
the
does
mistake
make
that's the mistake they made with
the
Harris.
color
And that's the
matters
mistake a lot of Democrats are making going forward.
Jason, I love you dearly. The color matters today. A lot of these people who voted for him voted for Donald Trump said, oh, it's going to be them, not us. And now they're touched too. But the race is always going to play a factor. Race and money hit everything, particularly now. I'm sorry. But here's
the thing, to what I think, please forgive me, Michael, but also to your point, April, Trump's success in part in 2024 was his ability to galvanize infrequent voters and men of all races under the age of 35.
That's right.
So what we're seeing is there are certain ideologies. Now we could argue it's misogyny, but there are certain ideologies that are crossing race, that are allowing large numbers of Latinos and a louder group of young Black men to be supportive of this policy. I don't think that only works one way. I do think you've got some people out there who, if you give them a vision, not just policy, but if you give them a vision and a policy, a vision of this is what we're going to do, and I'm going to drag you with me, I think that can cross race in ways that we haven't seen before. And I am as much a race man as the next person, right? But I can't ignore the numbers, and I can't ignore the success that Trump has been able to have, because it's very similar to what Obama did. Obama got people of all colors under the age of 40 to be like, I'll do this, because he pushed forward a vision of America that was appealing. We're talking about white suburban women now. What were they when Obama? They were white college girls, right? He got who have turned into white suburban women, right? So you can come up with things that cross race, gender, and sexuality, but you got to be passionate about it. And what you can't do is sit there and do interview after interview where you're like, hey, what are you going to do about the fact that members of your own party are being arrested or trapped in their own offices? And you can't say, I'm going to send another strongly worded letter.